Sit down, strap in, and hang on, because we're going racing with the fastest cars in this weekend's Porsche stable. That's right, it's time for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup Series. I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Atterbury and Anna Checki. Joey, we're here at COTA, but what makes this track distinct?
It is a behemoth of a racetrack, an FIA Grade 1 facility located just outside of Austin, Texas here. Turn number one, known as Big Red, has a huge climb up to the apex, and it really widens out there on the entry, but there's a massive funnel effect from apex to exit. And then sector number 1 is filled with those S's all the way down towards turn number 11, where you got to get off of that back straightaway with a great launch. It provides you an awesome opportunity to pass into that turn 12 brake zone. The tower complex down there, including turn number 15, starts our sector number 3 with our ultra-fast triple apex right-hander, and then turn 19 and 20 to round out our 3.41-mile lap.
Absolutely, and here we can see our starting grid as Danny Dashelski is on the pole this time, beating Carl Stout. He'll take the fight to him as second. Sees Riley Giacomazzi in the inside of the row with Siegel on the outside in fourth. Fifth place will be Brandon Hankins, fresh off the USA West Series. He'll be next to Blake McGovern there in sixth. Luke French will start from seventh as Alex Pratt, also hopping over, will start from P8. Then it's Elaine Scalzo in ninth, and Javier Ripoll Jr. Joey will round out our top 10.
Looks like Todd Treffer back here going to be starting from 11th next to Tony Melito in 12th place. In 13th, it's going to be Chris Hutter driving that 281. Mark Bowden from Fall Line Motorsports going to be rolling off in 14th. In 15th, Frank Vitiello. 16th is going to be Bill Fennick with JDX Racing. Grading Willingham going to be rolling off from 17th spot. Scott Neal back here in 18th. Over into the 19th position is going to be Greg Shermer and Jeff Hinkle rounding out our top 20.
Then in 21st, it'll be Jens Hansen. He'll have Reggie Tartaglione behind him in 22nd. And the last one will be Keith McGovern. Real quick before we get going, Anna, welcome into the booth. Hopefully you're not too winded after a lot of racing today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, super happy to be here and see it from a different side of the camera.
Well, we're glad to have your expertise as someone who has been in the car out in these conditions today, which gets a little lighter now as we come out of the final corner and see the cars lined up and ready to go. We wait for the green flag to give us the signal at the start line, and there it is. Green flag is out as we accelerate up towards Big Red. Danny Dashelski trying to spoil the party, starts from pole position, but look at Carl Stout coming way around the outside, too far into the corner. He goes all the way off, but he's not going to get the position, as thankfully, Joey, it is clean the rest of the way through.
Oh, and now he's actually challenging Dashelski for the lead. I think it was a pretty savvy move from Carl Stout, going way outside and still side by side through the S's. Danny Dashelski leaving plenty of room at apex, and now it bottles them all up directly behind. You see Riley Giacomazzi side by side. I believe Matt Siegel and Blake McGovern also inserted into that battle.
Well, that was an interesting start, to say the least. Certainly using up quite a bit of the track limits there is Carl Stout, but I think he is going to take that top spot away from Dashelski from our timing and scoring. And for what I can see, they're heading into turn 11, that white and green colored car ahead of the bright orange car of Danny. But look at how it has backed them up behind. This has got to be chaos to deal with, Anna, at the starts of these races.
Yeah, especially at COTA. It's known for having some interesting starts with turn 1 there, but going side by side through the S's, it's definitely a brave move.
So as we come down to the end of the brake zone, Blake McGovern in a close battle with Luke French, who is around the outside coming into turn 12. Looks like Blake is going to be able to take that spot away up into sixth position. Now behind them, they also have Javier Ripoll Jr., who's getting awful close, nearly making contact, Joey.
It certainly looked like he was leaning on that car of Luke French through that apex of turn number 13, but all is good out here on the racetrack as we still are sorting ourselves out here on lap number 1 of this GT3 Cup race at COTA. Carl Stout has now got the lead, and just like we saw from that S's move, and it's going to be up to Danny Dashelski to really kind of remedy that.
Well, I get the sense that Carl does not like being somewhere other than the lead because he was very aggressive on that start to try and take it away. But Danny was quicker than him in qualifying. What can he do now that he no longer has the upper hand, Joey?
We're going to find out. I think it was a really savvy move from Carl Stout, especially the turn number 1 on our real start, because he went in way too deep. There was no way he was going to make the corner, but how many times have we seen that funnel close in the first half of the corner, especially lap number 1, turn number 1 at COTA? So he purposely drove it away from that danger area. Yes, he went off of the racetrack in the process, but guess what? He's got a completely clean car and he's out front.
Behind him, it looks like Giacomazzi and Siegel still fighting for that third position, while these two remain close coming up through turn 8 and into 9. Yeah, look at how tight it is there for P3, Anna. It looks like Matt is just practically on his bumper at times.
Yeah, it's definitely really close. You know he's got to be sweating a little bit, but just trying to keep looking forward and ignore the pressure.
Behind them, it looks like that is going to be Brandon Hankins and Blake McGovern, although McGovern pulling a little bit of a savvy cutback through turn 11.
There's a car around, I believe it might have been the 281 of Chris Hutter around at turn number 11, and yes, there he is.
Thankfully, it looks like we won't have the same issues we saw in the Cayman race through there, as a couple cars came together pretty hard. Meanwhile, we still have a battle coming down through turn 12 between Hankins and McGovern. McGovern, once again, having trouble trying to also fight behind, as there is Luke French still putting the pressure on, Joey.
Multiple lines taken throughout this section of the racetrack, and you see Blake McGovern just completely closing the door on Luke French. I think that there's opportunities to maybe early apex and take the shallow, call it shortest distance around that tower section. Then there's also the traditional racing line trying to carry the momentum, and so you get drivers kind of picking and choosing one or the other based off of the racing conditions.
Well, and Anna, when the things are so close at the beginning, especially with these sharp corners, I mean, where do you turn your attention in these situations? How do you keep track of it all?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot, and you know, you definitely don't want to get taken out first lap. It's a lot going on. I think it is important to focus forward and make sure you're doing the corner well, but definitely keep an eye on the mirrors, because sometimes someone will come up pretty quick, and you want to make sure you're aware of that.
It's extremely shallow into turn 1. Joe, do you have any thoughts on what Carl was doing?
I have no idea. The thing that came to my mind is maybe if he got a message from race control to say, you know, we didn't like the start, but that was extremely shallow up the front straight.
He was kicking up dirt off of the racing line. He was that far in, but he kept Danny Dyszelski behind him. We'll see if we can figure out what exactly he was attempting to do there, but he did not lose the lead is the important part. Behind them, I actually think some of that fighting has allowed Matt and Riley to catch up.
It was a mistake right in the middle of the S section, turn number 7. Dyszelski got out way wide, drivers right, and gave up a ton of track position to our leader, and that allowed Matt Siegel and that silver 267 to close it in.
Back onto the back stretch they go. They've actually pulled a decent gap to those behind, I have to say. I didn't notice how much they have pulled ahead of 5th on back. Brandon Hankins currently the one trying to play catch up there, but we once again see them fly at about 160 miles an hour down into the braking of turn 12. And in fact, it looks like Dyszelski is no longer worried about trying to retake the lead. He's got some pressure from Matt Siegel here.
He's going to have to gather it back up, get back onto that racing rhythm, and see if he can hunt down Carl Stout. I see a brief yellow flag in one of the turns out there. It is not a full course yellow flag, so not sure what car was affected out there as we continue on. Now it is cleared back up, full green flag racing on the track.
I'm getting word from race control that was the 281 that had a bit of a spin. It looks like, again, Chris Hutter, this time down in, well, turn 11 again, I guess, because that's what it was before. That's interesting, as he seems to have a bit of trouble here in the early stages of the race with this car. We had a little bit of cloud cover looking a bit ominous a little bit earlier in previous races today, but now it has gotten bright and sunny, and look at the battle that we have here with a 3-car fight coming into turn 20.
It's a terrific battle here. I think this is a little bit further back. I believe Frank Vitiello is in the caboose position. That's Mark Bowden in the 246 there. Todd Treffert also involved. And then that red car of Vitiello, I think Bill Fennick is also giving chase here. So this is up into the big red corner, and now we're going to leapfrog directly in front This is Elaine Scalzo locked into this battle, I believe.
Just kind of clipping those apexes down through the S's. And yeah, that is Scalzo, who is our leader in the Masters, something that we have to keep in mind. He has Melito and Hansen separating himself from Mark Bowden currently. But I think it's a bit of a gap from what we can see on our pictures right now until we get back to Mark Bowden. So that's the good news for Scalzo. The bad news is he's surrounded by other cars that are battling for position.
This is going to get pretty tight down here. Elaine's going to look down to the inside of turn number 11. It's just important you get the car stopped, and then also call it a double move. I believe that was Jens Hansen getting on the inside of Tony Melito, and Elaine Scalzo trying to posture now down this back straightaway. Who's going to have the inside line going into turn number 11?
Remember, Elaine is not fighting Jens for points because Hansen is part of the Pro-Am group, but we're going to look at 3 wide coming down into the braking at turn 12, and I think Scalzo wisely is going to kind of pull off to the side and give way. He does not need to be involved in this.
Are you sure about that? I think that he's inserting himself right back side by side there. He is loving this fight right now between himself and Javier Ripple Jr., I believe, and then that's the 203 of Tony Melito hanging out, just watching this all unfold out of his windshield. And I got to say that Jens Hansen did a terrific job to dispatch of all 3 of those cars quite quickly.
Yeah, and we have to remember that Jens Hansen started 22nd today. He has absolutely blitzed up through what is mostly the Masters class and has now caught up to the rest of his class around him here in 8th. Luke French next on his list.
And you know, Anna, that's kind of something that you did in the USA West Series. You started from the back, you didn't go out there and qualify, and then you drove it straight up towards the front as we got some action up here in turn number 1. But how much fun is that to essentially know that you've got the speed, you've got the skill and the ability, and now you just get to go out there and have fun making passes all racing?
Yeah, it's definitely fun. Lots of excitement, you know. You want to make sure you make clean passes, so you definitely have to keep that in mind. But it's definitely a good challenge, and I think it makes for some amazing passing practice, so it's kind of hard to beat that.
Bad news for Elaine Scalzo. He has a 3-second post-race penalty for multiple track limits violations. We're 10 minutes into this race. He's in trouble if he is already struggling to keep it within the boundaries.
And here's the difficult part about COTA is that when you get locked into these battles that are literally bumper to bumper, as Blake McGovern working over Brandon Hankins here, if the car directly in front of you drives off the racetrack and you're following, you're going to follow him off of the racetrack as well. So Elaine Scalzo, like you mentioned, already in some trouble, but a little bit of side drafting going on here between McGovern and Hankins.
Yeah, I think McGovern also posturing a bit, trying to force him farther to the inside. Hankins is not ahead, but he's got the desired line down to the apex, and there's a perfect example of what you were talking about, Joey. Nearly pushes him outside the track limits, but I think he stayed within. It looks like McGovern will take the spot. And Anna, I'm curious, how hard is it inside the cockpit to tell how close you are to that limit?
I think it can be challenging at times. You know, it's always on your mind, but you also want to make sure you don't squeeze the car or have contact if it's unnecessary. So I think it can be a little bit tricky, but I know I was definitely thinking about it when I was out there because, like Scalzo, you don't want to get an unnecessary time penalty if you don't need to.
Scalzo's gap back to Bowden, I think, still big enough at this point, so I'll have to double check. Actually, it might not be.
No, I'm showing at least on our timing screen that it's only ahead by roughly a second right now because that was that huge mid-pack fight, right? And Elaine Scalzo is trying to run away from that. That is his mission right now, but Mark Bowden doing a nice job giving chase about 2 seconds back now from this.
You have to keep in mind it's only 16 points between them in the championship, so it is important who finishes ahead in this mid part of the season as we continue to follow McGovern and Hankins out there. Hankins also pulling double duty as there was a slide from Blake coming through the S's. Much like you've been doing, Anna, is it harder to have those extra races? Do you feel it physically over the weekend?
I think it definitely makes an impact. I mean, more tired for sure, and I can't even imagine getting like Hankins did, how he just got straight out of the car and back in for this. So it definitely takes a toll on you, I think. And it's hard to keep fighting in the same day.
Well, and you know, Anna, we've been talking throughout the streams today about how this is one of the most mentally and physically demanding racetracks, especially in production-based sports cars. Do you kind of feel the same way after all the racetracks that you've driven over the last couple of years?
Oh, 100%. I think COTA definitely, you can feel the effect it has on you as a driver, and doing back-to-back races, it just compounds, so makes a big impact.
Well, let's see who can come away from that smiling, if maybe a little bit tired this weekend, because we still have Carl Stout in the lead overall over Danny Dashelski. It's about 2 seconds, so no changes there since we had last seen, other than a bit more distance between P1 and P2.
And talking about that, since you just mentioned Carl Stout just laid down his fastest lap of the race on lap number 5 with 2:09.3. That was about 8/10 faster than Danny Dashelski giving chase.
Incident between the 243 and 252 under review. That is our 2 leaders. I wonder if that is for the opening sequence through the S's. Yeah.
Absolutely has to be. Now, we didn't get a close-up shot to see if they were leaning on each other. Don't see any bodywork flapping around, certainly from the camera shots that we saw afterwards, but I'm sure that whole sequence is probably at least going to be overviewed and talked about.
Now, I'm speculating here, but I'm guessing, since he went so wide off the corner, I wonder if he just kept his foot in it and carried too much speed into turn 2 and almost forced Danny off the track at turn 2.
Well, that's the whole idea, right?
Yeah.
Is that you're on the gas sooner out of turn number 1, so you have a better drive down the hill. And yeah, I wonder if they're looking at track limits, if they're looking at contact, or what they're looking at. It is all guessing and question marks on my side.
Well, after we had such a well-behaved Westfield that barely showed any track limits violations over the entirety of the race, we have already been racking them up. The 291 is another that's gotten a warning. So the next incident he has off track, he is going to get a 3-second penalty.
And that's Javier Ripple Jr. hanging out in what is the top 10 in the Pro-Am class. So it might drop him down just a little bit, but I think most importantly, it's not an inter-class battle. They are 2 different classes behind Ripple Jr. out there.
Now, we're watching the bright orange and blue car of Elaine Scalzo. He's our leader in Masters. The blue and black machine of Mark Bowden is in plenty of the same shots. Here we'll see as they go by. There he is, actually currently following Javier Ripple Jr., and it looks like he might have a good chance to try and make that overtake. Again, this is between 2 different classes, but this is so important for Mark to make up ground on Elaine, and he just makes it through.
It is crucial that you maintain the position through this sector right here. Call it the tower turns or whatever you want to call this complex. Definitely the slowest area on the racetrack where the drivers have to be the most patient. And maybe a little bit of some loose going in from Mark Bowden. Had to correct it. Didn't quite get down to the apex, and that allows Ripple Jr. right back onto that bumper.
Does not want to lose what he has just gained. He only has to overtake Melito to get to Scalzo. Javier Ripple Jr. nearly loses it and almost gets into the side of Bowden.
That is an extremely fast section of the racetrack coming out of what is turn number 18 there. So great save from really both Bowden and Ripple Jr. As Bowden a little bit earlier in the corners, and then Javier really hanging it out.
I just looked at our track temperature, Joey. I wonder if it is getting a little bit more slippery because it's now up to 100 Fahrenheit on the surface. That's 10 degrees hotter than what we had, I think, for even the USA West race.
Well, I've been locked here into this booth here for about the last 4 hours, so you would have a better idea being outside than I have.
Well, Anna, what did the conditions feel like on the track? Does it feel pretty grippy out there, or are you noticing it kind of loosening up?
Yeah, I think being in the USA West race, it was a little bit different. It was definitely heating up, so there was a little bit less grip overall, but I can't even imagine now. It's probably even a little bit worse from then, so it's definitely plays a big factor in how fast you can go.
And since we're just kind of talking about the overall grip level, I wanted to get Anna's opinion, just the S sections on this racetrack, especially in Sector 1 feeding to Sector number 2, that weight transfer back and forth, it seems to constantly never end, and that is all in the tires and the driver.
Yeah, no, the S's, they're pretty intense, and you're kind of just hanging on for dear life at that point. You're trying not to hit those tire barrels, but you definitely want to hustle as much speed as you can through there. So it does make a pretty big impact how the track conditions are when you're...
We saw a slide out of turn 11 from Bowden, and it looks like that has cost him, because here comes Javier Ripple Jr. down into 12. And he's going to be able to take that one right back. This is bad news, because I thought that maybe the way Bowden was making progress, he would set his sights forward.
I'm on the same page as you are, Joe. I think that Mark Bowden, that last lap was crucial for him. And unfortunately, Javier Ripple Jr. was able to kind of rebuff that pass that Mark was able to do. And now it's dropped him 3 seconds, or I should say over 3 seconds behind this car right here of Alain Scalzo.
But Scalzo has not been having it all his own way. We've been watching Melito just hanging out behind that car, and I think he still wants by, even though all it's going to do is give him some clean air. He's a long ways away from Hansen, who he's chasing, but it does not look content sitting behind the Canadian.
Anna, I want your opinion again. So you've been in a lot of these positions where you're leading the class, leading the overall race, but there's also maybe a competitor that is nearly as fast as you, but it's in a different class. Is the team on the radio giving you that information, or are you just simply racing?
They usually let you know, but as a driver, it is easy to be like, I don't want anyone to pass me regardless of if they're in my class, but it's definitely important to consider when you're figuring out how much you're willing to risk to keep that person behind you.
Huge news, guys. The 243 has been given incident responsibility, 20-second post-race penalty. That's Carl Stout, our leader.
Yeah, that means he must have been leaning on Danny Dashelski in that opening sector number 1. We didn't really get a close enough view of it, so couldn't make a comment on it, but it was definitely, we've been making remarks on it. It was out of the ordinary, and evidently race control has thrown the book.
As they stand now, and I'm sure these gaps will continue to extend, that would put him all the way to 8th. So this would be a huge hit to his ego, I'm sure, but he's so far ahead in the points, it won't matter too much. Still, it'll be the first time that anybody other than Carl Stout will have won in the GT3 Cup cars this season. And still we see Tony Melito trying to put the moves on Alain Scalzo. This time he actually dives it in down into the stadium section, and boy, he has made quick work as he runs away immediately.
Yeah, Alain kind of gave up on the back half of that corner, not accelerating out, but you're right, Melito, he's been working on that move for quite a while now, finally got the job done, so he is up into what is the top 10 overall. Now, Alain Scalzo just needs to monitor that gap, given that he's got that 3-second penalty from the track limits violation earlier on.
Yeah, that gap between he and Bowden currently right about at 3 seconds from what I'm seeing. So it's close. He definitely needs to try and push here and do what he can to keep the pace up, because Mark Bowden could steal that one away, even if he is not ahead on the track.
I think that Carl Stout got the message that he's got a 20-second post-race time penalty. I mean, there's only 2 cars starting 209s right now, and it is Carl and Danny up front. And I mean, if Carl wants to salvage something out of this race, it has got to be qualifying laps from here into the end.
No doubt. We'll see whether or not he can make the best of a bad situation for himself. But we watch the 222 carry on with what could be the lead, but we won't know for quite some time. Back up to Carl. That gap currently sitting at about 3.1 seconds. Didn't see the first 2 sectors actually go green on him, so he's not able to improve on that front, but like you said, his lap times are still competitive.
Wasn't green on the sectors, you're right. However, the top 2 were the fastest 2 in sector number 1, and then I'm looking at sector number 2 times as they roll in, and I actually think that's where Danny is maybe slipping up just a little bit in comparison to Carl Stout. Just a couple of tenths of a second off in sector number 2, so it's really putting the entire lap together.
And I am a bit surprised, since we saw Danny come in and pretty much immediately be on the pace and take that pole away from Carl. But it seems that maybe race pace is just a little bit better for that 243.
I also want to put yourself into his shoes, right? If you know that Carl is up there and he's got a 20-second penalty, and even laps prior, if you know that you're in the right and you're arguing with race control, you have a good positive feeling behind it, and you don't need to go force that issue.
Yeah, it's never a wise idea to argue with race control, I can tell you that. But, yeah, you make a good point. And Danny, if so, that's really great on his part, because he knows he really does not have to exert himself too hard in this situation. We have to remember these are two very young drivers and a very eager driver in Carl today.
Like I said, he's got the mission, and he's got the bit between the teeth right now. He is on full attack mode. You need laps that are qualifying pace or better if you want to try to salvage some of that 20-second penalty.
Anna, is it tough when you get those messages in the cockpit about penalties and things like that to refocus, or is that something you find easy to really kind of set it aside?
It can definitely be challenging, especially when it's such a big penalty. It's definitely on your mind. You know, you want to make up the ground that you're going to eventually lose, but I think it's best to try not to think about it, because the more you try to do well, it ends up hurting me personally. So best to have a clear head when racing, I think.
I've always said that it's a very difficult concept, but sometimes you have to drive slower in order to go faster.
Yeah, 100%.
I think Carl Stout is very much trying to go faster from what we have seen in this session, and he at least stays at about 3 seconds. He's at least not losing time, but now he's actually coming up on lap traffic.
And he's already flashing the lights at the lap traffic. I don't know if you guys saw that, but coming out of turn number 15, he was already on that column stalk saying, hey, I'm coming through, and look at that, already made his way through at the exit of 18 and before 19. So he knows that everybody in the rear view mirror right now is trying to play catch up, and it's just a matter of what lap times he can do for the remaining 11 minutes.
I did get confirmation just now that it was because he forced the 252 off track. So that is what this penalty is about, and why they've given it to him. But he's not making up ground off Danny now, as it's down to 2.8 seconds. How far back is Siegel? 6 seconds. So yeah, Danny's really under no pressure at this stage.
I'm going to go ahead and pull up kind of the gaps over here. So 20 seconds will still plop him into what is 6th or 7th place right now. With 10.5 minutes remaining, I think the best that he can hope for is maybe 5th. If he gets up and is able to claim a 4th place, that'll be extremely impressive.
Yellow flag at turn 1. And I'm not sure. The 295, I think that's Hankins.
Yeah, that is definitely Brandon Hankins. And I do see him dropping down our timing and scoring sheet right now, so definitely an issue.
He's stationary now. He's moving on the marching ants. Okay, he's getting going. That's the good news. I was hoping that we didn't have a car stalled or just unfortunately potentially hit by somebody, because it's very easy to have contact through that first corner if you're in a battle. Whatever it was, he's got it moving, but he's now fallen to 10th in class.
And he was right in that great mid-pack fight between, call it, McGovern, French, Hansen. So I wonder if there was maybe a little bit of extracurricular activity that happened up there at turn number 1. We'll just have to patiently wait to see if race control reviews that and see what they say.
Here's a tasty one. Scalzo and Bowden set their personal best laps each last lap, so they're also hustling right now. But Elaine is 4.4 seconds ahead. He's outside the buffer zone now.
And crucially, that lap was about a half a second faster than Mark Bowden, the one that you're just referencing right now. So Elaine back on track, and I was wondering that if you got so much pressure in that rear view mirror from Tony Melito earlier on, what is better, to let that pressure kind of relieve itself and just turn clean laps, or try to keep yourself in front?
Well, Anna, I've been enjoying watching this season, because we started out at Sebring. You had incredible pressure from Keith as well, but it was reversed today. So which did you enjoy more, being the one that was kind of in front, having to hold him off, or do you like being the chaser?
I think it was a lot of fun being behind, a lot less pressure, that's for sure. Sebring was great and a good experience, and learning how to deal with the pressure and still drive and not make a lot of mistakes, but it was a lot of fun today, and getting to kind of be in the opposite position was also a great learning experience.
I can imagine. Still relatively early in your career, so I'm sure every race probably feels like you're drinking from the fire hose.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to take in, but it's always great. There's always something more to learn.
Yeah, there we can see the confirmation that. Actually, no, that was a different incident that I was seeing. So that's the 295 with somebody that is under review. The 225.
That's Jens Hansen. And I also got the message, I'm not sure if you saw it, Joe, but Brendan Hankins has pulled it off behind the wall at turn number 8. So unfortunate for the 295, but he is now out of it.
Well,
and there's the penalty right there for Jens Hansen.
There's confirmation as well that Hankins had to stop it. My suggestion that it sometimes could wind up being because of a car making contact came true, it seems.
I want to stay right here on this onboard if we can, at least for a little while longer, because I saw Carl Stout reach up and make some adjustments on the dash. Now, I wonder if he was making traction control, ABS adjustments, whatever it is. I'm wondering if it's corner specific or if it was, call it race specific, that you finally have gotten to this point right now that he finally needs that adjustment for the last 7 minutes.
I noticed that same thing too, and well, there's a big correction coming up over turn 19, up to 4.6 seconds now ahead of Dushelski, but the real measure that we need to watch out for is what 20 seconds is. He would be 5th right now as it stands.
I think that it's going to be tough to go and try to catch Riley Giacomazzi, especially with what Riley's doing. So he just did it right there again, and I'll have to look inside these cars. I know the older generations definitely have the air vents coming through some of those center vents out there, and I wonder if he's making adjustments or if he's just trying to get a little bit of fresh air.
That could be as well. We'll have to ask him after this one if he is trying to do it corner by corner with one of those adjustments, or if he's, like you said, attempting to cool off a little bit. There's Frank Vitiello. Still carrying on, currently sits in 4th in class, just outside of the podium. And, Hansen is in pit lane. Is that the penalty he's serving?
I would assume that's going to be the penalty.
Yes, stop plus 30.
And I'm also getting minus 3 seconds post-race penalty right there for what I believe was the 275, and we also have it for the 291 out there.
That's Luke French in the 275. The 291 is Javier Ripple Jr. And French is sitting 6th. Ripple Jr. is in 8th. I'm not sure that they'll actually lose positions. We got a yellow flag at turn 19. So that's just behind us in our booth, actually. So we can't see quite what is going on. Yeah. It's the 219 car. That's Shermer.
So that's Greg Shermer down there at turn number 19. I'm not sure if I saw it there on that camera angle. I'm sure our producer was giving it to us to provide that shot there, but I did not see it.
I think he's well off the racetrack. It sounds like maybe another car was involved. But the 219 is still sitting there right now. We've managed to go without a yellow flag, knocking on wood. 5 minutes left. I'm hoping we don't come to a crawl, because I don't know that we'd be able to get this restarted.
No, not with, call it, just under 5 minutes remaining, plus that one lap that we've got here in Sprint Challenge North America. These GT3 Cup competitors have put on one heck of a show, especially starting off immediately lap number 1, turn number 1, that duel between Carl Stout and Danny Dushelski that ultimately saw our overall leader gaining a 20-second time penalty that he is currently trying to make up.
Anna, what does it feel like going through that turn 19, that penultimate turn? Because I know when I've driven it in the Sims, it feels so awkward to hit it right. Is it tough?
Yeah, awkward is definitely a good word to describe it. You're trying to sail in as much speed as you can, but if you get a little over-ambitious, things can also go pretty south pretty fast. So it's definitely one of those tricky corners where you want to hit it just right.
There we can see that is turn 19. And yeah, there we go. Now we've got the car. Now, he should not be stranded because of the gravel, but he's got the flashers on, and he has not moved in at least a full lap that we've been sitting and waiting.
Yes, I agree with you. I think the worst possible thing is if he tried to decide to grab a gear and drive it through the gravel, so he's doing the right thing sitting there. And I think just patiently waiting for this race to come to a close, given the amount of time that we've got left. And I was waiting for it. That car is in a dangerous spot. I just didn't want to put the words in their mouth.
Yeah, no, I had the same feeling. That's such a fast corner, and he's definitely in the firing line, and now the car gets going. Never fails. Well, we could get the pace car out and get them restarted, maybe?
No, because they have to be able to notify everybody.
Okay.
So, yeah, a little bit of a shame here. It continues on the racetrack, doesn't even come into pit lane, so that tells me the car's okay.
You know who really did not want this?
Yeah.
Carl Stout.
This is the worst possible scenario.
Oh, he is going to take a massive hit here, because if we finish behind the safety car, he is effectively going to be put pretty much dead last.
Yeah. Wow. I think that his only remedy was to probably hustle it around to start-finish and hope he beats out the pace car, but he was not in an area of the racetrack that he could do that. He's going to get collected up. Everybody is going to come up to that rear back bumper of the 243, and all of a sudden that 20-second time penalty, it's going to be a lot rougher.
So Scalzo, I think, is going to get the winning blow this time over Bowden. That'll actually, I believe, tie it 2-2 on wins, not on points. But yeah, that'll be the second win of the season after Scalzo won race 1 at Barber. Bowden went back-to-back with the second race at Barber and the first race at Sonoma. But the points gap will now narrow in the Masters, and Bowden probably sweating each time he looks at that, knowing how close it was last time he had a chance to take a championship in that class. But we now just have to wait patiently for them to circulate, and next time by will be the white flag.
And so, to your point, right, we got to get the field packed up. I still see cars crossing the start-finish line here directly in front of us, so I wonder if they're going to be packed up enough to turn off the lights to do our white flag, 1 lap remaining. It's certainly possible.
Yeah. I'm looking at the farthest back right now is still in the stadium section, so it's a long way spread apart. And that's the section where they get that lights out signal at turn 15, just on the exit of it. So we'll have to watch carefully.
I mean, I know it's not the clearest view. I don't see lights on the safety car right now.
I'm kind of noticing the same thing. Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like the compression on our signal here for the onboard with Stout is making it tough to make it out. And here we go. Lights are out. Okay, well, I like what I'm seeing. I want to see a green flag finish. And as we come through that section, we have met the threshold. Now, that might mean we're not completely packed up, but the main cars at the front should be close enough that we will have a battle. For Carl Stout, this still does not help him completely, but will allow him to hopefully get maybe a couple positions in this lap.
I think he's got to get tricky right here. He's got to get tricky on the restart. I wasn't going to say anything during the yellow flag, but given how savvy he was up at turn number 1, there's certainly things that you can do to help your case come into the checkered flag. And I'm sure they were going through the mind of the driver inside the 243, and now is about nailing the restart to gain as much track position as possible against everybody else to try to build up that 20 seconds. If I was looking at it, I'm going out of 19 right here, but he's too close to the safety car.
Yeah, you can see they're only just getting a bunch more of the drivers packed up. They'll have about half the field in the main pack here, it looks like, before they get the green flag, which coming out of the final turn, I believe he is able to go whenever he pleases, and he does. And Carl Stout may have a problem, because not only is he going to lose a lot of spots, now it looks like Dyshelski's going to try and fight him for that lead to cause him more pain. He's going to look around the outside. Will he try and undercut him, switching back through turn 1? Yes, he does. Last time this happened, though, he got a little bit pushed off the track. This time, he's given enough room, and Dyshelski is going to be your leader.
Nice move from Danny Dyshelski. He pulled an Uno Reverso on Carl Stout right there in turn number 1, and now Carl's literally pushing him through the S's right there. pushing Danny Dashelski out of the way.
A little bit of Rubbin's race, and he might actually lose the lead here. Here comes Matt Siegel round the outside. He's going to take what is second, but on the road, this should wind up being the win. No, he's being fought back. Danny Dashelski to the inside of turn 9, up and over the hill, Joey.
And Riley Giacomazzi is inserting himself into this battle as well, so watch that orange 252. He is a de facto leader right now because Carl Stout has that 20-second penalty. Siegel around the outside as everybody gets checked up in turn number 11. It's going to be a drag race.
Bombs away into that hairpin. Everybody wanted the spot, but it is Siegel who comes away with the spot over Dashelski. He tries to see if he can steal this win. Look at him bumping, coming down the back straight there for position. Blake McGovern and a fight with Luke French once again in this race. Siegel stays ahead, and French goes for a spin.
Just out in the dirty stuff, and around goes Luke French. He grabs a gear and continues on, but it really is up front. Matt Siegel was side by side there in turn 13. Danny Dashelski trying to sneak down the inside, but the options, they are running out of time.
Remember, Danny is just popping in and effectively a guest spot here, so Siegel really needs the points, especially if he wants to chase down Carl Stout for a hope at the championship. He is currently sitting third in the points. He is not out of it at this stage, and he has to hold him off for one more corner as they come up to turn 20. He does not guard the inside, leaves it open, but still manages to hold it off. Carl Stout might come across the line first, but it is going to be Matt Siegel, your winner in race 1 in the Pro-Ams.
What a terrific fight from Matt Siegel out there, and Mark Bowden is going to win your Masters class because that 3 seconds from Elaine Scalzo drops the 222 down.
So penalties changed the win in both of our classes in this race. Unbelievable stuff. I can't wait to talk to the drivers, Joey.
It's going to be an absolute barn burner down there for the interviews and whatnot. And Anna, actually, you can probably stick around here. We're going to go ahead and read through our results as Joe Peak heads down to the paddock to collect our race winners for some interviews. In our Pro-Am class, it is Matt Siegel taking victory. I mean, talk about fireworks of an ending right there. Danny Dashelski is going to finish in second. Riley Giacomazzi will be on the podium in what is third place. Blake McGovern in fourth. Tony Melito fifth. Javier Ripple Jr. in sixth place. Luke French, after the spin on the last lap, drops to seventh. Chris Hutter eighth. Carl Stout winds up in ninth place after that 20-second time penalty. Jens Hansen back here in 10th. Brandon Hankins with some problems on the racetrack. Same thing. Unfortunately, Alex Pratt did not start this one, and we'll go on over to what is our Pro-Am class here momentarily with Mark Bowden claiming the victory over Elaine Scalzo. And I'm sorry, this is the Masters class. That is my mistake there. Elaine Scalzo in the 222 dropping down to what is second place. Todd Treffert finishing in third. Frank Vitiello with a nice run to come up to what is fourth place. Bill Fennick down here in what is fifth. Keith McGovern in sixth. Grading Willingham in seventh. Scott Neal is going to finish in eighth. And then Jeff Hinkle back here in ninth. Reggie Tartaglione a lap down in 10th. Greg Shermer, after we saw a couple little of those issues out there on the racetrack, is going to finish in 11th as well. Now, Anna, we got a little bit of time here before we toss it down to Joe Peak. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us here in the commentary booth. We really enjoy having the driver's perspective. We've really enjoyed watching your racing career, so just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun to see it from this side of the screen, so really appreciate that.
Well, as you see, everybody is heading into pit lane right now, and what we're going to do is take a very, very short break, but please don't go anywhere because Joe Peak is already waiting for our race-winning drivers for the interviews.
Experience the ultimate thrill. Porsche GT Track Day, where passion meets performance on some of North America's most legendary racetracks. Designed exclusively for Porsche owners, this is your chance to unleash the full potential of your vehicle in a motorsport environment. Drive the same circuits as professional racers, on the same weekend as Porsche Sprint Challenge events. Where will your Porsche take you? With limited space, every Porsche GT Track Day ensures a premium, exclusive experience. You'll get nearly 3 hours of track time, starting with reconnaissance laps, progressing through lead-follow sessions, and culminating in exhilarating open laps. Plus, strap in for heart-pounding hot laps with a professional race driver.
I thought I was fast. Didn't resemble anything that I've ever done.
Beyond the track, immerse yourself in VIP hospitality, premium viewing areas, and exclusive paddock access, where you can witness Porsche Sprint Challenge teams in action. Spots are limited. Scan the QR code now to reserve your place at Porsche GT Track Day.
We have our winner in the Pro-Am class, Matt Siegel, with us. Matt, talk to us about that last lap. You knew you had an opportunity. How did you make it happen?
You know, I was honestly focusing on keeping Riley behind me because they were two running up front. And once we got a good restart, I noticed him and Carroll were going at it. So I was like, okay, they're fighting pretty hard through the S's. You know, I was standing right behind, ready to make my opportunity. And I got a good run coming down on him to S's and just held it to the finish.
So you guys have all been chasing Carl for this whole season. Now that you finally got one over on him, is this kind of some satisfaction for you?
Yeah, I definitely think for me and the team as well. We've, and for Lockie back home in Australia, this one means a lot.
Well, congratulations. Savor the victory. We're going to go check out Mark Bowden here in a second, so we'll be back with him.
We are here at
Did you already send?
Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. We just wrapped up a wonderful day of racing, and we still have our post-race interviews going on right now in the paddock after GT3 Cup race number 1, and it sounds like we have our Masters class victor.
Our Masters winner, Mark Bowden, takes his third victory of the season. I'm afraid to say that we didn't get to watch your fight taking that win away from Scalzo. Tell us how you did it.
Well, he actually finished ahead of me, but I guess he has penalties for track limits. It was tough out there. Very different track conditions from the rest of the weekend, event leading up to here. He drove great. I had a terrible qualifying, as I often do. It's my signature. But was able to get around enough cars and use some good old-fashioned racecraft and have this guy to chase down. So, yeah, great being here and a good comeback.
Did your team tell you about the 3-second penalty at any point, or did you find out post-race?
No, they told me about it early on, and then I was battling with the 291 a bit, and it got me a little bit back, and I was giving everything I could to close the gap. So, yeah, all in all, we'll take it.
Well done on the third victory. Enjoy. That's going to wrap.
And tell the guys that are doing the broadcast up there, last time they said he's only won twice. I won twice 2 years ago at VIR. So
yes, I corrected myself on that one. Thankfully, sometimes we get sometimes we get things wrong, but we're going to close out for our coverage today. Thanks for tuning in. Come back tomorrow for more action here in Sprint Challenge.